Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I wanted to go and do a full tour on the simulator, all the stuff that I run and the reason why I run it. So let's get right into it. So the PC, that is a pre-built PC that I got at Best Buy right when the pandemic was starting out. So it was actually on sale, so I got a really good deal on it. The GPU is the AMD Radeon RX 5600 XT. The CPU is the AMD Ryzen 5 3600 6-core with 16 gigs of RAM. Only added this I did to it, I put a 6 TB external hard drive, which is mounted right behind that blue fan, and that's the reason the blue fan is there, to help keep the external hard drive a little cooler. I added 3 additional fans in the top side to help pull some cool air down onto the CPU, and that's what that little button right there is for. So if it gets a little too hot, I can crank up the fans. Keeps it all pretty cool. So moving on, the TVs. Now these are all different brand TVs. I know some people probably won't get a kick out of this. They're actually watching it. Like, how in the world you got all these different TVs and all this? Well, through time, my friends and family, when they started upgrading their TVs and stuff, I just happened to be the one that they wanted to give them all to. So I had some of these put up in storage, and then the one on top, I actually purchased that one here just a few months ago. I got that actually at Goodwill for $40. I bought a Roku stick for it. That actually is connected with Roku, PC, and I have my Xbox hooked up to it as well. So if I want to change out between things, watch a football game while I'm racing, while I'm practicing or whatever, play some Xbox, work on my computer at the same time, I can do all that. So like I said, they are 4 individual brands. So it's an Element, that's an OWN, that's a ProScan, and that's a Funye, however you pronounce it. But they're all at 1080p at 60 hertz. Have no issues out of none of them. I do run it through individuals. I used to run it through the AMD Eyefinity software to expand it all into one. But I noticed that when I would change in and out a few things like games, they would flicker really bad. So I ended up changing it back out, running them at single monitors, which works very well now because I can do different things on each one, however I want to do it. So what you're seeing in the background, how all this is mounted, that was an old computer desk that I had. I was about to throw it away, and I was like, hey, I need to figure out a way how to mount these TVs. So I ended up taking it, and you see there's a couple blocks there, and on the side I raised it up. I ended up cutting it out around the back side, so that way this rig itself can slide all the way up as far as I can, because this is all built into my bedroom. When I first started doing this, before I made the channel years ago, I had all this set up in my living room, and I just had the rig before I mounted all this stuff into, which I'll get into in a second. I had this where I had it on caster wheels where I could slide over to the corner. When I want to play, I'd slide it back out in front of the big screen TV, hook everything up, play, and this was all before I started, on a PC. I was strictly playing it off my Xbox. And I started out with the little 488 wheel that you can get at, I think it was Walmart, yeah. It was like $100, it's no FF, it's no force feedback in it, so it's got like the little rubber band thing in it. A couple months later, I got me the Logitech G29. Used that for about 2 years before I upgraded to the base I have now, which I'll get into here in just a moment. So the frame itself, the chassis, the rig, it's called a Super Drive. I got it off Amazon about 2 years ago. It was on sale. It was like going out of stock, so I ended up looking at a couple. Like I said, when I originally had this built into my living room, I wanted to be able to, keep it tucked to the wall as best I could, and that was before I had all this stuff mounted to it. And then the seat itself, it folds down, so I was trying to keep everything compacted as best I could. So, but through time, as I got more involved with it, I kept upgrading things to it, making it the best way for me than how I wanted to race. And then, I started doing the VR, so I ended up leaving it into the corner and just strictly having a little small monitor mounted to it onto the chassis itself, and then I was just using my VR. And there is a video on that. It's the 3-year time-lapse video. You can go through and check it out, the build through the time and how it is, what it is now. Alright, so like I said, the frame, it was very narrow, very cheap. I had to do a lot of modifications to make it, pretty sturdy. The biggest thing was the top plate was very narrow. So the way the wheel was mounted, it wasn't much wider than the base itself. So I ended up going and buying a 24-inch by 24-inch 5/8 piece of plywood, and I cut it in half. Mounted one piece to go across the top so I can extend the stuff out, and I'll get on that side in a second. So that way I can mount this stuff. And then of course down from the bottom, that's the other half, because it only came with a little bitty plate just to mount like your gear shifter to. And I was like, hey, I want to have a gear shifter, I want to have my e-brake on there, you know, set it up where I got my mouse pad. So that's what I ended up doing. All right, so some of the stuff on this side right here, like I said, you know, I built all this to make it work out best I can. A little generic, you know, 10-inch Android tablet. You can pick these things up all day on the, you know, eBay, Amazon, wherever. You can get them at Walmart, like, you know, between $30 and $50. I only run it, you know, just for telemetries, and that's basically it. It is magnetized on there, so I can take it in and off, use it how I want. One of the best investments I ever did was buying the 32-button Elgato Stream Deck. Now, when I first started doing all this, I was just using like my keyboard for, you know, the different, you know, adjustments you can do in the game. And I was like, hey, try something a little different. So I bought me a single right-handed keyboard that, you know, it lit up. And then I had it mounted, and then I took some little sticky tapes and cut them down, and, you know, wrote some stuff on them. That way I could have, you know, changing my settings and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? Eventually I invested, saved up to my money, got the Elgato Stream Deck. Absolutely love it, because now I can change and program so many things. It's just absolutely unreal. And then there's just a little small wireless little Bluetooth keyboard, so that way if I need something additional in case my other keyboard or something ever goes out, I have that just on standby. The gear shifter, I got that through Amazon. I accidentally, when I first purchased it, I ordered the wrong one. So this particular model, it comes with that little white button there, and what that is, it drops down and allows you to go from H pattern to sequential. And then of course I just changed the little knob on it, picked it up like AutoZone, changed it out. So now, you know, you can shift it back forth. So I originally, when I, like I said, I bought the wrong one at first. So, and I went back and ordered that one, because you cannot buy that little adapter unless you purchase it as it is. So I had one set up just for sequential, then one is H pattern. And like I said, if you look at the time-lapse video that I did, you can see 1 or 2 little shots of it. Well, I used to have both of them set up. So I ended up changing it out, going back, and just having that particular, you know, just that one right now. Works out pretty well. Like I said, I can change it in and out. Because then normally, you know, for certain games, I only primarily use it for H pattern, and then on the wheels, I use just the paddle shifts. Occasionally I'll use it, you know, a couple other games just for the sequential. The e-brake, I did a video on that one as well. That was an actual real e-brake. It came with the hydraulic cylinder and everything on it. I changed the component pieces out, changed the handle. That's actually a little dowel rod wrapped in 550 cord, and was just different color electrical tape. It's got a spring on it. It's extremely strong to pull. Works that well, and as you see, I've moved it 10 times. And all it is running a micro switch. So when it engages, it just hits a switch. That switch is wired to the old keyboard, the keypad I used to have, the one I was just talking about that I used to use for the button box, which I'll get into in just here in a second on that. And as you see, I just have my cable for my Oculus Quest 2. I do run VR occasionally. Not pretty much anymore, since I do the triples now. But I still like to use VR every once in a while. The drink holder, and I got another little cup holder, so that's the remote for my Roku. And then this is the pad, the switch pad controller for the seat. Like I said, it's got the heat pad and all that stuff in there, the vibrations. The heat stuff does still work on it. I just swapped out the wiring, and then how I did the vibration into the seat, which I have a video on that as well. And then the controller for, you know, the VR. So over and all, you know, all that works very well. It's very reachable. Never had any issues out of none of that. Works pretty good. All right, so like I said, the seat, it's just a little generic, you know, heat pad thing that goes on top of it. I went in, tapped into the wiring program in it, changed it out, so it has 8 vibration motors in it, which are wired to the control panel for the SimHub software, and that's also connected to the pedals. So I have the vibrating motor, took an old Xbox controller, took motors out and mounted it. So that way the the brake and accelerator vibrate, so does the seat. And if you try to buy these pads, like the Game Trex pad or the Force Field pad, they're around now between $250 and $500, and I have less than like maybe 45 bucks total and all that. All right, so moving on. So the wheel, that is a custom wheel that I did. That's the original 48 Challenge wheel that came with the wheelbase. The base is the Thrustmaster TS PC Racer. I got all of it in a bundle package on Amazon on sale a little over a year ago. So it came with the 488 Challenge wheel, the base, and the TLCM pedal switch. I modified those as well. I did make a separate video on those, which I'll go over a little bit more in that detail because I did do a few changes on it. The foam, I don't know if I covered it already, but that's an old foam that I had when I was in the military. It's an old rugged foam. It's magnetized on there, so I can change it out, change the telemetries, whatever, depending on what game I'm using, take it on and off, how I want to do things. Now, this is probably one of the best investments I've made on this is the USB hub. I used to run these little like 3 to 4 hubs on there, and then I'd plug one and daisy chain it to another one because you're running so many different components on here. Something I noticed through time was it was lagging really bad, glitching in and out. Sometimes one thing wouldn't work, something else wouldn't work. You'd have to unplug it, plug it back in. And I was like, it's just, not good when you're trying to race and you lose, one of your things that, on your rig itself. So, like I said, it's one of the best investments. That's an Axis. It's a 3.0 powered 16-port USB. And I have that. It's running through a USB extension going into the computer, so I call it my umbilical cord. So it's one single cord that comes up, connects in here directly, and that's run down to where I have at the bottom here I have a surge protector that the base, the wheelbase, computer, all that are plugged into. So if something ever happens, I can reach down and cut that off. Like I said, it is on a surge protector, and that's running to another surge protector just in case with a storm or anything like that. It'll blow the surge protectors before it blows anything else. So, moving down, as you can see, the pedals, they're illuminated, and that's by that keyboard I was telling you about. So that is mounted right there. So all I did was take the little faceplate off of it, took the cord from the e-brake, ran it over, it's just on a standard little speaker wire, soldered it into the tab button on that keyboard. So when I hit the e-brake, it goes to the tab system. Works perfect, and it also illuminates the pedals. Now the pedals are changed out. Like I said, those are the Thrustmaster TLCM. I modified them pretty well. Changed out the pedals, about those pedal plates. I got those at AutoZone, but all three of them were like 20 bucks. I just didn't put the one on the brake pad. But I did a video on this, like I said, but I went back and changed and added a double spring on the clutch, and then changed that to one for the brake pad. And it does run the red springs in the back, but I just wanted to get a little bit more realistic feeling to it. And I did change how they're mounted. I spaced them out just a little bit more. I don't like my pedals really stacked together, so I just moved them out a little bit. Makes it feel well. And the way I have it set up, and that little strap, that's just an added to help keep it from rocking. It is bolted all the way through, but something I didn't notice, the plastic on it's fairly cheap. So even if it bolted all the way down, when you apply a lot of brake, it causes it to bulge up. So that's just a little ratchet strap that goes around the frame, locks it in permanently, never moves. And I actually was amazed how much difference that made in my braking, because I was knocking off anywhere between a half to almost a second a lap in like GT3 cars because I wasn't properly braking correctly on that. But like I said, did some changes to it, worked out very well. Alright, so moving on, I do run the HyperX Cloud 2s. Got those about 2 years ago. They work very well. Just a little cell phone bracket I made, so that way when I do my recording. Now then, when I do POV recording, I use a GoPro Max, so that way I can see my phone there when I have it set on my head. So that way I do that. Right now I'm just recording all this off my phone. Something I've seen a lot of people do is go out and buy these high dollar gloves. Man, stop doing that. You can buy these little things at Walmart, $5. They padded, work very well, never have no problems out of it. Alright, so something I didn't cover a little earlier is the mounts, how I did this. So I'm gonna scroll back around so you can see this. So as you can see, that is my closet door. Like I said, all this is built into my bedroom. So something, you know, when I first moved in here, taking the rig itself from the living room to the bedroom, I was running a single 40-inch TV in here. That's, you know, the window going outside right there. So I had it, you know, slid up as far as it goes to the window for the base of the frame, the rig, all the way to the wall. With the monitor, you know, the TV there, it worked that well. Like I said, I had all these extra TVs sitting around, so I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and try to do triples. So when I did triples, I just couldn't really figure out how I wanted to mount them, so that's why I came up with the idea of just taking a computer desk, cutting it out, chopping it up, whatever, got it moved in here. So that way it's all mounted in here, you know, best I can get it for it being in my bedroom. Now this is right beside my bed, it's right next to my bathroom, and that is my closet. So I was like, hey, you know, how am I gonna be able to get into my closet if I got these screens pulled all out here? Because when I first did set up the triples, I had them scooted all the way back. Not a very big problem. I could swing the door open, but I just couldn't swing it open enough. So when I actually did move the monitor a little closer, I definitely couldn't open it up. So all I did was I put this on a swivel mount. And you can see that's my Xbox down there. And then that's my headphones for the Xbox as well. But it's on a swivel mount, so if I want to get in my closet, all I gotta do is take this, swing it. It lines back up perfect every time. No problems out of it, none whatsoever. Everything works out very well. So, a few other things I wanted to go over, like some of the software stuff I use. As you can see, what's running in the background, that's through SimHub. That is the RSC dash panel overlay package you can get. I forgot where I actually seen that at. It's program, but you can add more overlays in your dashboards. You know, if you want to swap them, go into the actual, you know, tablet or the phone, you can do that. I run the Crew Chief, and I have that tied in all as well through that. So something I didn't notice, and it took me a long time to figure this out. When you're running individual TVs like this, monitors, and you don't have them set up to, you know, the iFinity or, you know, I think it's the NVIDIA surround, I think, of how to make it all triples. When you do those individually, one thing you cannot do is adjust the brightness from the PC to the TVs. Now you could go through each TV and adjust the brightness, but you cannot do it through the program of the PC itself. SimHub offers a cool package deal that you can get on there to where you can go through there and change the brightness. So if I go through here and click on, I can actually in game change the brightness of the whole system. Love it. Also, you know, you can change your voice packages, stuff like that with the SimHub software, and the same thing with Crew Chief. You know, if you have it set up for the voice commands, instead of me trying to scroll with a mouse all the time or anything like that, trying to go through and change the tires or whatever, fuel mixtures, you can talk to him through the headset. And once you get it set up for a while, it works out very well. That's something I did want to add on. I mentioned this to another guy's video here a while back. These little cheap single button USB keyboards. Now I have this one set up right now. It's actually used as a push to talk button. So especially like NASCAR, stuff like that. I don't really do a whole lot in the GT3, but I have that programmed through my other wheel over there. All this is just a single keyboard button. It's run through a micro USB going up to the hub. Works out flawless, man. I love this thing. And you can buy them all day long for about 20 bucks. Because you see, you know, this is an aftermarket wheel that I changed. So the hub is sitting there. It's a deep dish. I couldn't really find one at the time that I really liked, so I ended up going with this. And this is a 13-inch optimal for like NASCAR. Late models, modifieds, you know, you run about a 13 to a 15-inch wheel, just depending. Now that's what I did growing up. As a teenager, I grew up in late models and modifieds from my grandpa, but unfortunately, when my mom passed away when I was a teenager, my granddaddy quit racing, so this is the only way I can go back and relive my childhood. And this is probably one of the best PTSD controls I have found since I've been out of service now for a little over a year. I spent well over a decade and a half in the military, so this is my passion now. But I wanted to show people that you really don't have to spend a ton of money going out and buying these high dollar products that most people see on YouTube. by all means, if you got the money to do it, more power to you. I'm just not one of those type people. I'm going to utilize and create things my own way the best I can and use what I have. And once you do that, you're building this yourself. It makes you feel more involved. Like I said, I grew up doing this when I was a kid. And then I started working on cars when I was like 10 years old with my grandpa, and I learned everything, all the electrical stuff, everything was all taught by him, and that's what I do now for my profession. Professional. I do primarily electrical stuff for certain companies. I'm a subcontractor, so I do electrical and fiber optic stuff like that. That's how I knew how to wire all this stuff up pretty correctly. But when you do that, it gets you more involved in building it yourself, and you get more appreciation out of it. You can look back and say, I built all this by myself. I didn't just buy it off the shelf, bolt it on, other than a few things, but doing it yourself, I felt more involvement in it. So I probably ran on a little bit too much more than I want to, but I just want to get into a full detail on this. And, I know a lot of people have seen the video and look. But, if you have any questions on it, feel free to ask. Send me a comment. Definitely subscribe, like, go through and check out some of the other videos. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm not a professional editor. I'm shooting straight from the hip. This is all from the heart. I just want to show people that you don't have to spend a ton of money to have a really cool setup, especially when it comes to monitors and PC. That's one of the, bottom end, low, mid-grade PCs. I'm running 4 monitors on it, wide open, no problems. Cheap, old, generic TVs work well. Yes, I can run the system a little higher if I want to. If I want to go back to a single monitor, I can run it to a 4K, no problem. But, utilize the best you can what you got. Take it from there and just go race. Have fun, man. So, here again, a little quick tour. Well, not so quick now, but it is what it is. If you like it, like. If you don't, you don't. Oh, well. But me, I'm going to keep on racing.